All talk, no action. I refuse to be called a politician.
Because I'm the outsider.
As a businessman, I wasn't a politician.
I'm not a politician.
Politicians are all talk and no action. A politician! I don't want to be called a politician.
And what they do is they want to knock out the outsider because they want to keep their little party going.
But it's political bull. Do you understand? It's true. It's true.
Therein lies what to Donald Trump and his followers is at the core of the reason why he should be president of the United States. That for too long, the political glitterati elite has been running the show. They are completely out of touch with anything that happens across this country and might not even be aware there are only 13 episodes left in the Game of Thrones saga that, when completed, will plunge this nation into a depression the likes of which we haven't seen since almost 20 years ago to the day when we were told the entire Bob Newhart show was nothing but a dream. Seriously. They hold the power, they're out of touch with real America, and they should not be trusted and perhaps face a similar fate to that of Ramsey Bolton, okay? Even if you don't get the reference, look it up and you'll likely agree. It's okay. Trump's an outsider. He's no reason to bow his head to the legacy powerful, and that will make him the difference America needs in the White House. Let's hold that thought. Because Donald Trump may not be the outsider he claims to be, certainly not surrounding himself with those who fit the same ideal. Your thoughts on the issue, welcome and encouraged. Be on the line right now at 1-877-Newsmax, 1-877-639-7629. Swords at the ready. Welcome back the presidential historian and New York Times bestselling author of Last Act, The Final Years and Emerging Legacy of Ronald Reagan, Craig Shirley. Craig, welcome in. I will not ask you to go to the pop culture reference if you don't want to, so please don't feel as if I'm going to push it, okay?
Oh, I remember Bob Newhart's last episode.
Okay, good. There you go. As long as you got one out of the three references, that's excellent. You're batting .333. Let's go from there.
Let me go for the other two.
No, please. It's okay. We have things to do here. Let's talk about this outsider thing. Donald Trump says, I'm not a politician. I'm not an outsider. Wait a minute here. He is, in essence, becoming a politician right in front of our eyes, is he not? And number two to that,
sure.
When he talks about, I'm an outsider, is it not fair to say that unless he brings the political Beltway insiders into his campaign, which he is grudgingly doing right now, if he doesn't do that, he can't win this election?
Well, there's no doubt about it. He is surrounded by pretty much insiders, veterans of the Dole campaign, the McCain campaign, the Steve Forbes campaign. There aren't really interestingly enough, any veterans of the Reagan campaign or any of the Bush campaigns. I find it significant that there aren't many Reaganites, as far as I know, or anybody around Trump's campaign. But he is, by definition, a politician because he's running for high office, and politician is about politics, and politics is about power, and he's seeking power. So, of course, he's a politician.
Then how does he continue to call himself an outsider? And again, we're not hammering away at him on this. We're basically talking about political realities here. To call himself an outsider when he has to have underneath him and working with him the insiders who will get him there, who will create the ground game, who will understand the process. He then becomes an insider, does he not?
Well, or unless he channels those insider forces against themselves, so to speak. You know, Reagan was head of the national government for 8 years, and yet none of us ever think of him as being a part of Washington. He was always an outsider. Jimmy Carter ran as an outsider in '76, but quickly became an insider. Bill Clinton ran as an outsider in '92, but he quickly became an insider. What he has to do is remember why he ran, and if he's elected, what his principles are, and to use those forces of the inside basically against themselves to bring about an outsider administration that will challenge the status quo in Washington.
Would you say, though, in your experience, that if he does not bring those insiders in, get them working for him, do it right now, and those are the people who understand the process, if he doesn't do that, his chances are greater that he will lose and potentially lose badly?
I think it's possible. I'm reminded of what Reagan said the first day he was sworn into office, and the first day he met with his staff and his cabinet, and he said, let's govern as if we're not going to win in 4 years. Let's govern as if we don't care what the elites and the insiders and the Washington Post says about us. We're going to govern as outsiders, and we're going to basically revitalize and reinvent the Republican Party and take on the Washington establishment. So if he goes in with that mindset, it's one thing. If he goes in and becomes controlled by the insiders, as Nixon did in 1968 and 69, then the revolution will be for naught.
All right, let's get a couple of phone calls in here right now. Frank from Van Nuys, California, joins us on the Hardline. Frank, we get it that you believe that the Republican Party needs to back Donald Trump. Understood. That's easy to say. But what about this whole idea that he is becoming an insider and then he's going to have to allow himself sooner or later to be controlled maybe by some of these political insiders because it's the way you gain power and the way you become president?
This liberal media, they're not telling the American people the truth. And I'll tell you what I've been a lifetime Democrat. What changed my mind to register Republican, I saw that movie called Benghazi. I saw that movie called 13 Hours, and that's what made me go to Donald Trump. This guy is real. I support him on immigration. I think we need someone like him in the White House. Thank you very much.
All right, Frank, thank you very much
show.
for your call. Cindy's in Prescott Valley, Arizona. And again, Cindy, we understand you think the party's got to back Trump, but do me a favor, get to the point here right now. What about the fact that he claims to be an outsider? He wants to be an outsider, but he's got to be an insider to win the election.
He's an outsider. He's always going to be an outsider because he's for the people, which insiders obviously are not. Didn't Obama, does he not want only one party? And with the Republicans not backing Trump, doesn't it appear as if, it's going to wind up one party?
I don't think that's going to happen because I think the Republicans will not allow that to happen. Cindy, thanks so much for joining us. Hey, Craig, when you hear things, and you mentioned this an awful lot, you mentioned Ronald Reagan's name a few times in there just a couple of minutes ago. And Ron Reagan Jr. is going to come out, and he apparently is fired up very, very heavily in the last couple of days, as I read. He doesn't like people comparing Donald Trump to his father. Is that a winning strategy, though? I mean, we've mentioned this a couple of times here, but is that changing at all?
No, I agree with Mike. I think it's a mistake to compare the personalities. The dynamics, sure. The outsider forces and insider forces are at play now as they were in 1980. Trump is running as an outsider, although a more emotive, as opposed to Reagan, who ran as an intellectual outsider, intellectual conservative, and intellectual populist. Don't forget, Reagan was not just against big government. He was also against big corporations. He knew that all concentrations of power were threats to personal freedom and personal liberty, and that the best solution for America was maximum competition at all levels, and that protected the rights of the individual.
Greg, a couple of minutes we have left here. I wanted to get this into you because we talked about polls earlier in the show and how, quite frankly, these polls change almost with the wind. And if the day ends in Y, we've got a different poll, and they're basically telling each other that this one's wrong and this one's right. It goes back and forth. Here's a guy named Nate Silver. Nate Silver does this for 538. He's been a polling guy for a long time. He predicts that Hillary Clinton has a 79% chance of winning the general election against Donald Trump. And this is a guy who reportedly has forecast correctly 49 out of 50 states in 2008, every state in 2012. And he says no candidate has blown a lead as large as Clinton's advantage over Trump in nearly 30 years. We get all that, Craig, but isn't it fair to say no one's ever seen an election year like 2016? So to put anything up against other years like that, you've got to be insane.
This is completely anomalous, this election. It's anomalous. It's been in a generation or two. So I'd take Mr. Silver's advice or his forecasting with a large grain of salt. No doubt about it. Donald Trump is scrambling the electoral map, and Hillary also is boxed in too. Is that she can't break out and appeal to conservative, middle-class, populist, anti-establishment. She is the very embodiment of the establishment. So I would take Mr. Silver's analysis with a large grain of salt.
By the way, 15 seconds here. What do you think about all these politicians, the Republicans specifically, who say they don't want to speak at the convention when Donald Trump wins?
Well, it depends on how he handles it. A unified convention traditionally, Ed, has always been better than a divided convention, but he might be just re-scrambling the Republican Party and presented as them as insiders and thus part of the problem. And if he projects himself as an outsider, including his convention, then he might well be fine.
Greg, don't worry about it. Next time we have you on the show, we will be having highlights from a Game of Thrones episode to make sure that you know exactly what we're talking about on the pop culture side of things. We got to bring you up to it. I mean, well, we really...
I'm lost on the Game of Thrones.
Good for you. Sometimes it's not a bad idea to be on the outside. Ooh, an outsider. There you go. Craig Shirley, thanks a lot for joining us, my friend. We'll talk to you again real soon. Make sure you join us tomorrow because we'll be hitting on this, the polls, and a whole lot more, plus your phone calls every single day here on the Hardline. Rock on, true believers. Thanks for joining us. Good night and good luck.